Hey everybody, Mike Henson here along with,
NEALS.
here we go. And we got a very special guest today. Apologize for the little delay that we had early on. Needless to say, Skype is not our preferred platform, although we did manage to get it working. But before I introduce today's guest to you, we wanted to talk just a little bit about what the point of today's show is. As you know, the NurOwn product has been showing very exciting results, and I think that you're going to get to meet a gentleman today. I'd hope to have him here in the studio. Didn't quite work out that way, so as always, I'll make this disclaimer that if for any reason the streaming or anything fails today, we will have all of this up as a recorded, edited version eventually. Annie and I have been talking about moving over to a YouTube channel to try to eliminate some of these little glitches. But it looks like as of right now we have everything working so far. Annie, do you want to introduce our guest since now you know who it is? Obviously, it was supposed to be a surprise today, but I'm gonna go over to you, and why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest?
I think it was still is almost as a special surprise because Mike Henson just basically did magic to get us up here. And so without further ado, our special guest, Mark Bedwell.
Mark, what's going on? I see your dog there. That's awesome. How are you, buddy?
No, that's me. I may be ugly, but that's me.
You sly devil, you. Look at
I wish
that.
I could.
Little Luna.
So, Mark, for those of you who know, I'm going to go back over to us just for a second. Mark is receiving the NurOwn product. Mark is complete now with all three of his doses. He is still traveling up to Boston, actually to Worcester, as they say, to get the in his final stages of phase three. As you know, NurOwn requires about 14 trips. That is not the problem with the or the fault of the company. That's a problem with the FDA. One of the things we're going to discuss a little bit later is what we maybe could do about that. But Mark, why don't you tell us now that you're complete? How you feeling, bud? Are you feeling pretty good?
I am feeling pretty good. Um, got some energy back. Uh, Still not 100%, maybe 80%. Arms are still weak and
Okay.
hands are still weak, but basically I'm good.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, we're going to show a couple of videos of you in a moment, before and after. And as you know, you and I spent some time together, earlier on. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? And you came down over here to Tulsa, and we sat down and had a full interview for the upcoming documentary. That, of course, everybody, I'll plug this again. You've all seen it hundreds of times, but we're going to keep on plugging it. You came down and you spent some time with us, or with me, and one of the things that you and I discussed was your ability now versus before you received the treatment. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, just to dispel any rumors on whether or not it's helped you? We've seen some things about Matt Bellina, and maybe one of these days, Annie, you're good friends with his mother, and maybe we can get Matt to come on our show. But, Mark, why don't you tell us, get into specifics about how much this product helped you, and if you would like to continue with it, or if you think it's, a hoax in any way or not working adequately.
Well, me at the worst point, it was getting difficult to walk. My legs were stiff. I could still walk.
And you had fallen down, right? You fell down and couldn't get up even.
Yes, both legs, all the muscles in both legs cramped up at the same time. And all I could do is follow my face, scream and holler.
Mm.
Um, broke my glasses.
Ooh.
One of my kids come running to help, but there's nothing that he could have done.
Right.
After about 10 minutes of pain, um, it got better to where I can walk again.
What about tell us a little bit about more of your bulbar symptoms, like your saliva and your speaking, and and what you can do with your tongue now. Well, let's not break any ladies' hearts now, but look at that. Is that you rolling your tongue? Actually, is that what you're doing?
Yes, I couldn't roll my tongue before, but I can now. I could always stick it out,
right?
Especially to the customers.
And you were the other day. You were whistling. Yeah, exactly. You were whistling for us. Now, to somebody, Annie, who doesn't have ALS, those very simple things seem incredibly ridiculous, But when you lose the ability in the muscles around your mouth to, to whistle and to, like I can still whistle, I can roll my tongue. But I am starting to lose a little bit of that mobility there. So explain to somebody with ALS, well, not to somebody with ALS, but to somebody without ALS, what that means to have a reversal of some of these bulbar symptoms and be able to, act normally, speak normally, eat normally.
To be honest with you, I think that they are probably the most important part.
Mark, sorry about that. You know what? Go ahead, Mark. Why don't you explain that to us? That's probably a better question for you anyway, isn't it? Since you're the one that's had the miraculous recovery. So go ahead, buddy.
I'm not going to say recovery. It's done something for me.
Well, I know you won't say it here, but I understand.
I have one of my Facebook buddies, Angela. I've never met, but we've talked probably at least once a week for several months. And she said when we first started talking, she couldn't really understand what I was saying.
Right.
Because she said it sounded like I had a mouthful of marbles.
Right.
But after the first injection, it got better and better, and I can talk for hours, and she can understand every single word.
That's great, and that's a good question. That's a good point, Mark. Thanks for correcting my term. Recovery. When I say recovery, what I don't mean is a cure. Okay, we need to be careful not to confuse these terms. What I mean is you have recovered lost ability that you once had, and that's certainly apparent to me, because when we shot the documentary, Mark, you and I talked for almost 3.5 hours at the house here before we shot the documentary, and your voice was, I did notice it faded a tiny bit before we started shooting, and I wish we would have shot first so people could have really heard your voice at its best. But you certainly have the ability to communicate better now than you did. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, it's very safe to say that.
And especially rolling the tongue and the saliva. Now, this gets a little gross, and again, I don't want to, gross anybody out. But
the saliva it used to, I couldn't brush my teeth for a couple of years without gagging badly and trying to almost throw up. And I'd lay on the couch watching TV, and I'd have so much saliva that I would choke also.
Wow.
But that has cleared up.
It has. That's great.
And I can brush my teeth, and they're getting whiter, too.
Ladies, look out. Hey, and by the way, Mark is tell us what you do for a day job, Mark. What do you do?
For a day job, I work at an auto repair shop.
Right.
In the office.
Okay.
I don't actually work on cars no more, but
right.
I'm down to just a few days a week now. I do dispatching for tow trucks at night, but I can do that from my cell phone.
Okay.
I don't do any physical activity at the shop anymore.
You had said one time that you had to sling the chains underneath the cars, and that you were not, you became unable to do that anymore, you know. And could
Yeah,
you
it got to where when I was laying down to hook up the chains up under the car, uh, and the chains are fairly light. I got to where it was really hard for me to lift the chain up.
right,
And to get back up, I'd have to just kind of grab hold of the bed and pull myself up.
right.
Um, uh, but that has gotten a lot better. Now I can lay down and get right up.
Okay, okay. So that's amazing.
But still,
Oh, okay. Mark, tell us a little bit about another thing you had mentioned was, your trips to Boston. Talk a little bit about the experiences you've had for people who may want to get in this NurOwn trial. There are still slots available. And Annie, after we let you go here in a little bit, Annie and I are going to discuss some of those things. So explain to us how was the experience overall for you? Did you enjoy it? Was it good? Would you like to keep going with the trial in a crossover type of situation? You know?
I would love to keep on going. My experience, very little pain, except for twice I had the what was it, the spinal headache. And you
Right,
can call them
right.
the spinal headache from hell because you, as long as you're laying down, it's all right. But as soon as you get up, um, it hurts so bad. And then the last one lasted 5 days.
Okay,
The first one, I had a blood patch to take care of it.
okay.
But the bone marrow aspiration, that was sore, but not really painful.
Okay. Do you feel like and Annie, feel free to jump in here with any questions. Sorry, I don't mean to hog the
Hang
time
on,
here,
No
but
problem.
hang on just for a second.
okay, sure, sure. Um, you can think of anything you want to ask him, Annie. Is anybody watching on Facebook that they have a question for Mark too? You could
Oh,
check
I've
that
kind
maybe.
of.
Um, I'm not sure what Mark's doing. He may have to let the dog out or something. We'll see. I think I still see him there, but um, I want to
So
ask.
does anybody have a question
Yeah, if
just
you
for
guys have any
Mark?
questions for Mark, feel free to ask him. We got him here. It looks like he's still there. He did say, "Hang on a second," so we'll give him some time. In fact,
Well,
while
I
what you got?
I think the bulbar, I think that's
Huh?
huge when we talk about that. Oh,
Can
he's
you see
back.
me?
Oh, hey Mark, you're back. I don't see you, but we
Hello.
hear you. We hear you. We hear you. Are you there?
I lost connection.
That's
There
okay.
he
That's
is.
all right. It's we won't say anything more about Skype. I think we all kind of know how some of us feel about that product. But Annie, go ahead. What were you wanting to ask Mark while we got him here? Let's talk.
Well, I think it's really important to talk about Mark with the bulbar issues, which
Yes,
to
exactly.
those who don't understand maybe ALS, that is a huge, probably, I don't know, over the years I've
Um,
probably heard that
can't hear
that's the
Annie.
biggest problem.
Oh, you can't hear Annie? I'm sorry, Mark. She's asking about the bulbar issues. Annie, what's your specific question? And I'll relay to Mark what it is. What?
Well, my specific question is to, to really, that is a super important recovery of some function there in the tongue and the bulbar. I don't know that I've ever seen that happen before.
Right, right.
Well, I can honestly say I've never seen that happen. And to people over the years, something really big has been speaking and
Sure.
eating, of course, and breathing, of course, but to just have that ability to regain even a little of the bulbar function, while to some that isn't a complete cure, but to those in the ALS community, that's nothing shorter than a home run at this
Well,
point.
I completely agree. And Mark, what Annie was saying there was she's amazed at your bulbar recovery. You know, the ability for you to have recovered some of that function, and then how much of a home run that really is for you. It isn't making a difference in your life. You know, for your ability to not be drooling all over yourself. And I think it's amazing that even though you're getting lumbar punctures, you know that that some of that stem cell material has done good all the way up essentially at the top of your spinal cord and at the top of your body. You know, that's the interesting thing. You know, so for you, let's get this out of the way and clarify this. Your bulbar symptoms, your bulbar affect has been at least greatly improved. On a scale of 1 to 10, give us a number that you feel you've seen improvement in the bulbar symptoms, at least, like your saliva, that kind of thing.
Well, the saliva, 100%.
Okay, 100% there.
The speaking, I'm going to say 75, 80% better.
Okay, all right.
Still something there.
Okay.
But it used to be almost a whisper after about 10 minutes of talking. Now I can talk forever.
Well, I can verify that. Man, when you came over to the house, I could barely get you to shut up.
Hey, now.
You know I love you, brother. I'm just playing with you. No, but the point there is you talked for almost 6 hours that day. Do you realize that? 6 hours. And there was almost no noticeable loss in your voice. A little bit. You know, like I said, a little bit. You got a little bit fatigued near the end of the day, but you talked for almost 6 hours that day. Do you even realize that? Uh-oh, you still there?
We lost them.
Oh, man, I swear Skype. I tell you what, Skype is just is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
technology
he's
is
calling back
great.
in. Let me see if he's going to come back in. Yeah, I just stand by, folks. Sorry, we're going to get it working again. Mark's calling me back. Mark's calling me back. There he
When
is.
Mark
Let's
talks,
see. Go ahead, Annie. Why don't you?
when Mark talks about the gagging, that is an actual upper motor neuron pathological reflex. So, in other words, part of ALS, people think upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron are the parts of the body, and some doctors that aren't specialists even, they're not necessarily aware because it's so rare that, believe it, you know, it doesn't matter where it's at in the body. It just happens to coincide with the gag reflex he's talking about.
Hear Annie.
Is an upper motor neuron dysfunction. It's a severe pathological reflex. And so when people talk about excessive yawning, I've had that question a lot over the years.
Right.
That is an upper motor neuron dysfunction. And if you think about it, when we're first born, we have a lot of those pathological reflexes. So if you watch a baby and the way they react to a sound,
right,
that is the pathological reflex. So it's not developed. Well, with ALS, it's an upper motor neuron dysfunction. So it almost goes to a pathological nature. A lot of people tell me one of their first symptoms was the startle reflex. When someone came in the room, they were jumped, you know, it was exaggerated. And what Mark is explaining with brushing his teeth and the gag reflex is exactly what happens with the upper motor neuron dysfunction.
Right, the gag reflex.
One of the first things people sometimes notice is the smell of a cleaner. For the first time, they couldn't clean their bathroom because they would gag to a vomit. And that is an upper motor neuron dysfunction that is Mark is talking about.
Right. Mark, so you back with us there, buddy? I just want to make sure we got Mark back in with us here. Okay.
There he is.
Okay,
we want to hear Mark.
Yeah, we want to hear you, Mark. Tell us a little bit about, Annie was talking about the upper motor, the gag reflex and all that. So has your gag reflex gotten substantially better? I think you mentioned that already, but, you know, tell us about the gag reflex.
Yes, I was gagging a lot when I was brushing my teeth or just laying around with all the saliva, but nothing at all no more.
It's great. Okay. So let's move on now from some of the bulbar symptoms to more of the lower body and the limb onset symptoms. I'm going to show a video of you here in a minute where you were, on my little putting green I got in the back of the house, and you were out there just knocking it down, killing them, picking the ball up from out of the hole below ground level, and that's amazing. Tell us a little bit about your ability, and be specific as you can about how much benefit you've seen. Now your arms were a little weak still, but your legs were much better. And I'm going to show a video in a minute of you, but tell us a little bit about exactly how much better it's gotten in your lower body.
Well, at the worst part, and I could always walk, but at the worst part, it was getting more difficult. My legs were stiff, and they were really sore, and lots of cramps. Body cramps, my entire body, everything cramps.
Right. Yes, the cramping and spasticity, which is very much a problem.
And they are upper motor neuron.
Right. Right.
So people don't realize it. That has no idea.
I'm going to say about 90% gone.
Wow. Okay.
And they are upper motor neuron.
And the legs.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could always walk. I've never had to use a walker or anything. Some people even said, boy, that's good from a wheelchair to running. I was never in a wheelchair, never used a walker.
Right, of course.
We're just getting harder to walk.
Harder to walk, yeah. And especially when you fall down and you can't get up, and that's pretty dramatic. And then for you to be able to, have you fallen and not been able to get up at all now? Do you ever feel like you're in danger of that whatsoever? I mean,
no, not at all. I can run. I can run up and down stairs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
With no problem.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, Annie, sorry, you'll have to remember that I don't think Mark can probably hear you directly, so sorry for that. I just wanted to clear that up. Has anybody got any questions for Mark online while we have him here? I know Mark is on call tonight, I think, with the tow company, so he was very gracious with his time, and I want to say thank you, Mark, for joining us today, first of all. And now you're going to go to Coach Trimble's fundraiser with me, right? And we're going to we're going to get you to meet Willie from Duck Dynasty. I think he's going to be there. There's a fundraiser in Tulsa, Oklahoma, y'all. It's going to be, I think, April 25th, I believe, is the date. And Mark is going to be my guest there. 23rd. Oh, thank you. I see you know more about it than I do. But Mark is going to go, and I believe we're going to let him even try to speak and to tell people about NurOwn and to let these high rollers know at these fundraising events that NurOwn needs help right now. We need to get this product approved. Mark, if you were asked to speak at that event, would you have any problem with doing that at all? Would you be good with that?
No problem at all. I would love to speak to help raise funds for Coach.
And isn't that cool? Isn't that neat that you can actually speak at a public event now without fear? Isn't that? I mean, how much better does that get? That's pretty exciting, isn't it, Mark?
Well, who said something about no fear?
So you may still have a little stage fright, but you're going to do it. You're going to do it for the cause.
I'm going to do it no matter what. I may end up crying or something, but sure, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, and you did. I'm the same way, buddy. We all of us ALS guys, we get a little emotional, from time to time. And I'm a crier too. You cried a little bit in the interview, and that's good. We're humans, man. Even men. This disease it beats us down. And I'm so happy for you. And I know we've talked about this before, but the whole community is behind you. And what you've done, making the financial commitment that you've had to make, going 14 times to Boston. And I urge each of you, if you're looking for a cause out there to donate to, this man right here is about as good a cause as you could possibly have. How many more trips do you have to make, Mark?
One more trip at the end of April, then I'm done. But there has been a little bit of talk.
Yeah, you've got some breaking news right now. Maybe are you authorized to talk about that and stuff? I mean, I don't think there's a problem with that, right? So
I don't think there's a problem, but there was a little talking between the doctors and the company about extending. I may have heard that wrong, but that's what I take.
Wow, boy, that would be some really truly breaking news. And you remember Annie and I, you and I talked about this on the last broadcast about the crossover, needs of NurOwn. If they could raise $20 million, they could put everybody into what's called a crossover trial program, which would allow everybody in the trial to receive the real treatment at the end of the trial. So how nice would that be, right? Isn't that what you'd like to do, Mark?
I pray for that every night. I pray for that every night because I know a few people personally, my Facebook friends.
Yes.
That I would love to have them get the real stuff.
Me too, buddy. Me too. I know you do. You got
not just some, all of them.
And why wouldn't they? Why shouldn't they get the real stuff? Why are we still giving why are we still doing double-blind placebo trials in ALS? It's considered unethical in oncology to do that. Why are we different than people who have cancer? Annie, you got anything to say about that, Annie?
I think that the world just has no idea. And I have to think that the good people of this world, on every side of the aisle, in every corner of this globe, I think that they would all unite and just say, stop it now. No placebo, double-blind placebo in ALS. There's no other. ALS is unlike anything else that's ever hit this world, to be honest with you. There isn't even we don't even have a biomarker for diagnosis. We are that archaic. My family has a presentation so rare, state that they thought that maybe there were 7 families worldwide. Now imagine how many presentations like mine there are. It's heterogeneous. So if we don't start studying and we don't start putting these drugs in people's bodies without a double-blind placebo, how many more generations?
Yep.
How many more? We've lost millions to ALS and its variants.
It's time.
Millions.
It's time.
It's time.
This fire right here is ALS, and these firemen, they are spraying this fire on, this water on this fire to put it out. They're not worried about why. It doesn't matter. Right now we have a gentleman right here, this guy right here, cuddling his cute little dog, which, by the way, looks a lot like my daughter's dog, by the way, which is interesting. But he is a recipient of a company who is willing to take a chance, who is self-funded this entire process. And, Mark is one of the trial recipients. Now, we know of some trial recipients, sadly, who are getting placebo, and it is a crime. It absolutely, but again, this is not the company's fault. The FDA,
no, they want to give it to. We want extended approval, an interim analysis, so that we don't have any more time to waste. This is crucial. We are going to be like AIDS when we open this up. We will open up the world to our horror, to what we face, to the secrecy that this disease causes, that the world has not paid attention. And I've got to know, I think in my heart, it's that they didn't know what to do. While guys watching and everybody that is within an earshot of sharing this, it's time ALS moves to the top of the list. And NurOwn, by giving it interim analysis, it's a way to start stopping this horrific crime on humanity that is ALS.
It really it is, and it's well said. It's not bad enough that the disease is as evil as it is. You know that more than almost anybody here. It's the fact that a governmental agency has put these roadblocks in front of these companies like Brainstorm Therapeutics. And it is also the fact that a man like this, an ordinary, wonderful human being that lives in Arkansas, my sister state over there, not very far from me, has to fly to Boston 14 times with his own money, interrupted in the middle of his life, and has to spend his money to go to get maybe take a chance on getting a placebo. People listening right now that don't know anything about ALS, trust me, if you had to go through, you all go to the ER and complain that you had to wait 4 hours, okay? This man, what he's done for the ALS research community is heroic, okay? Everybody that's in the trial for Brainstorm is heroic. They are spending
heroes.
They're spending their own money. They're spending their own money. See this right
people
here?
People that have the placebo.
That money.
Bless you.
Every one of them is spending their own damn money to fly to these locations, these 5 locations, because they can't, because the FDA cannot get their crap straight. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, be political here, but listen, it can be fixed, okay? Everybody needs to contact the FDA. We will have that contact information for you. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry. You take it, buddy. What do you want to say?
Let me clear one thing up. I mean, it's very expensive for me. That's why I have credit cards. But
it's horrible.
I'm going to put some plugs out here. Team Gleason helped me tremendously on airline miles.
Absolutely.
Connie Arnold here, it's one of my buddy's sisters. Where she works at, they raised about $2,000 for me. That helped tremendously. Body and More in Van Buren, Arkansas is a little workout place for women. They helped. And less is
about
more.
As grassroots as you can get.
He's helped.
Sure.
I've had a lot of people help. GoFundMe, every dollar helped, and I appreciate and love every single person that helped. Even MasterCard, I helped. now that one credit card's still maxed out, and it'll take me a while to pay for it. But I just wanted to say, I couldn't have done this without a lot of help. And I love every person that helped.
I have to add that somebody that helped Mark was a grieving widow who just lost her amazing husband. And I don't know if she'll mind me saying, but Wendy Dale, the grief of losing your husband who didn't get the trial, but the absolute kindness to help someone else have an opportunity.
Words Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah. I don't mean to interrupt early here, Andy.
Yeah, I know.
Next Saturday is going to be my 20th anniversary for being 38. So I started a fundraiser for Team Gleason.
Yes, I saw that. Good for you, buddy. Explain to us where people can go for Gleason, and we're going to talk a little bit more about Gleason after we lose you here in a minute. But go ahead, buddy. Tell them about that fundraiser and where they can donate to your trips and we'll put this up in the video. I'll edit it in there, but tell us where they need to go. Where do we need to send the money, buddy?
Well, if you want to help me personally out, there's still a GoFundMe on my Facebook.
Okay.
And there's a $10,000 goal for Team Gleason.
I saw that.
That's great.
We need to hit that 10,000 for them. They do wonderful work. I got to meet most of them, if not all of them, in Washington, D.C.
That's perfect. And thanks for that segue, Mark, because I want to show, let's talk about this trip you made to the FDA, and Annie is going to fill that in as well after we get done with you again, because she was there as well. But let's show a couple of videos right now, Mark, of you. Now, I know you won't be able to see these, and I apologize for that, but the rest of the people are going to watch this. The first one we're going to show, and then I'll get your comment after we roll it, okay? But this is you running down the hall at the hotel, okay, buddy? So hang tight with me for a second. I'm going to run this video and we'll be right back with you, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go, y'all.
Hey, if I lose you, I'll call you right back.
You're good. Nope, you're running. We're watching you run down the hall right now. He's going to come back down the other way. Now, this is a man running who had such spasticity and cramping in his legs that he's able to do this. I could never do something like that. Mark?
A long time.
You're saying a long time.
Bedwell, and he just got his 30
before ALS, I could walk. I mean, I could run.
You could run before ALS. Okay, so you had slipped that much. I mean, you got to the point where you could not run before the NurOwn started. Is that correct?
It was hard for me to. It hurt my legs to walk across the parking lot. We have a big parking lot at work.
Yeah, you told me that. I remember that. That's a good story. Yeah, tell us that. Yeah, tell us about that.
When I take customers out there for the impound cars, I dreaded walking out there at the worst part. And the worst part was in 1st of October, mid-October.
Okay.
Then about 4 to 6 weeks after the first injection, I started walking faster.
Okay.
And my legs weren't hurting or cramping. And I thought one day, why don't I just run?
Right.
So I'm kind of like Forrest, run, Forrest, run.
That's amazing. Now we're gonna play this second video here, which has been circulated a little bit. It's also in the documentary. This was shot in the DC trip as well. Tell us a little bit about this. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me play it first and I want to get your comment. After I play this video, I want to get your comment on exactly what inspired you to do this. Okay, so hang tight for us here for a second. We're gonna play this. Okay, so hang on 1 second here, buddy. I'm gonna play this video for everybody.
But there are patients that are getting better on this trial. And I'm going to show you some.
Wow.
Directed. It worked. It was hard for me to walk, hard for me to talk. I'm very emotional about it. It works. I'll run around the building with you.
All right, buddy. So we saw you there, get a little emotional there at the end, and I don't know what to say. Let me tell you something. When I saw that video for the first time, Annie sent that to me, and it's been out there a little bit now, but I could not believe it. I thought, man, there's no way that dude had ALS. There's no way. I could never run like that. Tell us a little bit about that day and what happened there. What inspired you to get up and make those moves like that, man? Look like Emmett Smith out there, man. What was that all about? Nope, you're there.
Okay.
There you go, buddy. It's all you. Tell us about that day. What inspired you?
Well, I just wanted to show the FDA how I was improving. This may not work for everybody else or nobody else, but I know my body, and I wanted to prove to them that my body is changing for the better. So they can see that, and so that maybe they'll get off their butt.
Well, I know, Mark, you're such a modest man, you probably won't say this. Maybe you will, but one day you told me that, you were actually having growing pains in your calves. Your calves were getting bigger, which the thought of that in ALS is absolutely ridiculous to me. I don't know what to say to that, you know? And I don't know if we've lost Mark here. Mark, are you still with us? It looks like his connection may have gone away. You still there, buddy? No, he's gone. You know what? I think why don't we just leave it there, Annie? Maybe we should just do that. We've seen enough. We've seen enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
if it did that for one person in the history
Yeah.
of 150 years, that a disease that has really and not only has NurOwn has our brainstorm has actually opened up, with their generosity and their amazing the generosity to study ALS, which when I say that ALS and MND, a lot of people don't get into that market because frankly it's not it is surely a closed door. And for a company to actually, even try to help people with ALS is really, I personally can't even, I can't even imagine the daunting task that was to actually say, we are going to try to help ALS patients and to actually have results, but to actually have done that, and I know the FDA, I know all the people in that room were really moved by Mark and are so many wonderful people that had come there. I am so fortunate that
Tell us about that. Tell us about that day.
Yeah,
I mean,
that I got to see that I was absolutely able to sit in that room, because I sat in that room with some of the most wonderful people. Anyway, and some who I've lost, who were fighting there and have since lost their loved ones, like Nicole Sambora, who lost Mike this last 2 weeks ago, and she has been nothing. Yeah, he was instrumental in getting Right to Try passed. Him and their that amazing family, and is sitting there with the, Mark's or Matt, all you guys with the M's, Matt's mom, Mrs. Bellina, and the Reagans, with their wonderful twins, and Guillermo, who and his amazing wife. I mean, the synergy in that room was the synergy that we've never had in ALS. To see Mark get up and run, it was a collective sigh of the most of hope that ALS is such a crippling disease that when you tell someone about it, when you tell outside friends, they want to understand, but even the doctors don't understand. So you're kind of like on an island when you're family or you have ALS. And in that room, it sounds so cliche and it sounds silly, but we were a country, like ALS patients were there, and we were having a result. And the feeling there, I'm such a fortunate person because I have the oddest progression, and I've asked to be studied, for countless years, study my family, explain why some of us progress fast and some of us have a frontal lobe connection and some of us don't. And then to see Mark run, I thought to myself, it sums
Tell us who the
stem
people,
cells.
Tell us who the people who were the people in the meeting there, and what, who was leading the meeting? Who were some of those people who were involved in there? Name some names in there.
Peter Marks was basically, I think he's the highest person in and he was he tried to get there, but they had him, he was on the audio, but he could see. We had Billy Dunn, we had Janet Woodcock. Yeah, we had some really, and they were all very, very, very gracious about, they seemed to really be moved in that room, and I didn't feel that they weren't.
Was also there with you? Did they have a representative there with you?
No, it was really all advocacy group. It was really just all patients and grassroots and people that, have lost people, amazing people that have lost people. And, I don't even know if, Dwyer's and ALS advocacy, they were in the room. People that hadn't, have already lost, but they traveled all the way to Washington.
Right. I guess, and that's my
after they have had the loss.
That's my
no,
question.
They were not there. It was no organizations. It was, it was everybody there because they were there just because, yeah, they were just amazing. Just amazing.
Why, I guess my question is why did pals have to spend their own money and fly all the way across the country? I mean, I understand why, why Mark Bedwell was there, certainly. I mean, that to show them the results of this, and so that they understand that what they're doing is, well, frankly, for the lack of a better term, their delay, their lack of urgency is now literally possibly killing people, because this phase 3 trial with this double-blind placebo is ridiculous on NurOwn, and so why did these people have to, these pals have to take the time out of their own schedule, why would somebody like Alsa not be willing to, when they hear about this success that Mark and Matt Bellina are having, to fly them in and FDA and get a meeting with the FDA chief? Surely there's enough political capital there to say, hey, we want to let you know something's happening here. Okay, this is not business as usual again on another ordinary day. We need urgency. And I find it ironic that you guys had to fly out there yourselves and do this, and I applaud that effort. And then tell us about the rare disease conference or whatever it was that happened the next day, and who was there and who wasn't there, or was it the next week? I can't remember.
Yes, we were there for the next day for More Than Our Stories, which is a wonderful grassroots advocacy that I tip my hat in the most amazing, way for that, for what they provided us, and what Kathy, Colette, and they won't, they are so amazing that they won't even take credit for what they did the next day. But I like to talk about that, definitely in the future. But yes, the next week was rare disease, and we got a list of the people that attended, and the group, the organizations, and unfortunately, missing on that list was the Natural Als Association. And
I have that picture.
I had a lot of people.
I don't have it here, but I have that picture.
I have a lot of people.
Sign-in sheet.
Right. I have a lot of people that don't know when we say also. So we really have to clear that up. It's the ALS Association, which is the group really that they have the bully pulpit now to make. They could have made the hugest change. I mean, we have literally been, I don't know, short of camping on the doorstep to hear us.
They control the money.
Yeah,
they got the benefit.
They have the money. They have the voice.
Right.
They have the voice. I mean, I don't think it's ignoring the fact when ignoring that almost is. I mean, I don't know patients' voices, people that have passed away. At this point, I don't know other than how you can say than completely ignoring what is a chance. And if I have to, this isn't, I'm a very private person, and this has been really, really hard for me to put myself through, like anybody else, to put myself out there. But because I'm lucky, and because I'm blessed, and because I'm here, I have, said, where is the urgency? Where we have where is it? I mean, what the world wanted to know why they dumped the ice, and you didn't tell them, first of all. And to me, that was a responsibility when you received such an amazing amount from such generous, the amazing souls of the world. And to me, with that came a responsibility to fight for us. I mean,
It was a lot of money.
because
It was
a lot of
and
money.
we're going to talk about that for sure. Let me show you something, folks. This is a letter, and when we're talking about these trials, people ask me all the time, why can't ALS be fixed? Well, it can. The problem is, and there's a gentleman, absolutely brilliant gentleman named Warren Osborne, who interviewed for the documentary. Many of you know his story, but Warren, he really summed it up well when he noted that, you know, to do double-blind placebo trials on every single, on every single therapy that comes down the road, and to test those one at a time, and then to test them in combination, it would take a century to do it. What we have here is this is a great example of what he's talking about. This is a letter. Many of you have applied for trials. Okay, we've all been there and we've done that. So now what we have is a standard response that comes from a company when you want to be in a trial. I want you all to look at these requirements, and I've removed everything from these, as Annie and I do, by the way. We fully protect anybody who's willing to be a whistleblower, to provide us with information. We want you to know we're not here to rat people out, but we are here to tell the truth for the first time about why this cannot be stopped. Why it hasn't been stopped, but hopefully it will be. But look at this. Here's the commitment for this trial. Okay, you have got to go. Look at this. 76-week total trial. Okay, broken up into a double-blind period and an open-label period. During the double-blind period, you could be on active drug or a placebo. So again, you don't know, whether or not you're getting the real stuff or not. And look at this. The visit for the study are 4 weeks apart at alternate between sites and a phone call visit. Your in-person visits would be every 8 weeks at blank medical. You know what I mean? And so this study does require that you designate a caregiver and that they're willing to participate. Okay. So I want everybody to understand something here. Okay, that part of the problem here is that these companies are required to do these ridiculous double-blind placebo trials, and to all you folks, there are some groups, some organizations out there who are so pro FDA, so they're pro everything except solving ALS. Okay, I want you all to know that you need to stop it. Stop it. Listen, we don't need double-blind placebo trials in ALS. I've only got one thing to say to you, that it is so stupid. Why is cancer treated one way when ALS is treated another way? If you think you're so right about your argument that we need double-blind placebo trials to tell if it's working, okay, I tell you what, why don't you give me the drugs, okay, any of these drugs, 1501, CUATSM, any of them, and I can tell you if they're working. We don't need to treat people like lab rats to discover if these things are working. Okay, and this was a trial for a drug that, you know what it did, Annie? It was I think the trial for this drug was to, if I remember correctly, don't hold me to this, but it was to help dying muscles actually last a little bit longer. So nothing to even address the core issue of ALS. It was to help, muscles that are already atrophied because they've lost, nerve innervation.
Yeah, nerve connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to last a little bit longer. I mean, how crazy is that? So no,
I'd like to add one thing.
Sure.
Does anybody that wants to protect us, has anybody felt their muscles fasciculate under their skin and lay next to their spouse and say, "Could you keep your legs still during the night? It's fasciculating." That sounds so silly. Sounds so silly, but tell me, anybody that's trying to protect us,
Right.
have your significant other hug you and feel the fear on their eyes when, I remember Jennifer Estes, one of the things that um, she knew when she first got sick is she was sitting with her wonderful sister, who has done amazing things for all of us, for ALS, and
Mm-hmm.
she said, "Stop making your leg do that. You're not cute." Basically, stop
Wow.
doing that. And she looked down. Yeah, she
Really?
looked down and said, "Sis, I'm not doing that. I mean, my muscle's doing that." And I just, she talks about this so eloquently in her story. And, the crazy thing is that so many ALS patients can remember that day that they looked down at the fasciculations and said, they don't even know what the word was. I remember, most of us
That's
never
right.
even heard that word because it's
Right.
so
What's a
it's
fasciculation?
so yeah, what's a
Right.
fasciculation?
Right.
And I want anybody that's questioning us getting the drugs to just one day deal with you probably don't even know what a fasciculation is. It's an uncontrollable,
Right.
your muscle just moves underneath the skin. And with that, what we, and it is so misunderstood that a doctor doesn't even know why, it's innervation, or is it denervation, or,
Right.
it is, what could we at least try? What reason in this earth would we not be allowed to try? I mean,
Makes no
anything
sense, does
that
it?
could
This
stop.
is
It's
we
just,
have
it's
to.
just,
We have to.
like I said, it was just
We
such
have
a,
to.
I'm just being, but it comes down to something so simple is if you or your loved one, if you saw their muscles fasciculate and you knew what that meant,
Well, here's the way
there's
I
not a
look at
fear in
this.
the world like that.
Here's the way I look at this whole argument right now with NurOwn, and with this thing. This is it right here. This is it. Okay. $82 million sitting in a bank. And NurOwn has been trying to get some of that money for 8, 10 years, and also just keep pulling the ball out from under them, and people will say, oh, they're not asking for the money. Well, guess what, people, they are. We right now, you want to know what could happen is also could give $20 million to NurOwn, to Brainstorm Therapeutics, to do this crossover trial, to finish the trial, to get this thing into negotiations, to petition the FDA for intermediate approval, just fast track it in like they did with like they did with Radicava, which that's a whole separate
Yeah.
topic. But Annie, the bottom
Treat
line
us
is that
like AIDS, make a parallel track.
right, yes, correct.
They
Right
did it for
now,
those
it could be
wonderful
done.
patients in AIDS. Let's, and don't wait another day, because if it, think of it, I don't, I'm getting long-winded, but I don't think I think if also would have done it, we wouldn't be in this position with the FDA, because the FDA would have been amazing enough, I'm sure, to pass this. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't feel in this position, that I think that they would have passed it, and I've
Well,
got to think
it
that
wouldn't have
that they
hurt. I
will.
mean, that's for sure. We don't. We're speculating to some extent, but what we do know is that
Well, right,
there's a
it's
pile.
a
Yeah,
patient, but
but there's
it would have been a
there's
good
a pile of
chance.
money sitting in a bank account. Okay, that until 5 years ago, they had an argument to not put money into too many of these speculative things. Okay, I get that. I get that. But you know, the last 5 years have been different. Generally speaking, in business, when companies look at making large capital investments, they want to have as much data as they can get before they waste that money, before they put money into a project. Until 5 years ago, when the Ice Bucket Challenge happened, there was a lot of speculation in ALS. But as we continue to see things, um, as more news comes out about the effectiveness of these things, clinical, this is not a new article. This was from 16, you know, promising report, on the results of the phase 2 clinical trial. Okay, and yet nothing was given in support of this, and that's the bottom line is that we're 5 years behind now. That's the thing. And look at this, Annie.
That's it. We're 5 years behind.
You and I have said this. How many times have we talked about this? And not only that, we get conflicting information. Well, we don't fund phase 3 trials. Well, are you sure? Are you sure about that? Because according to this, Cytokinetics was funded all the way through phase 3. And guess what? Guess what happened to Cytokinetics right now, Annie? It's
done.
It's done. I mean, they missed all the marks. It's over. And that was a drug again that was nowhere near as promising as NurOwn, with actually stopping the disease progression. That's the key to this, folks, is putting money into things that stop the progression of ALS. It's
they
one
give
step
time.
By the time to get us to the point, okay, where then we
Build
can
the
go
cocktails.
back, start to look at the why. Start to look at the why. I mean, look at this. We're still spending. Look at some of the quote accomplishments of 2017. Look, they've at the second one from the bottom, third one from the bottom, funded 6 new bright young scientists. Okay, why are we funding, for the love of everything? Why are we funding 6 bright new young scientists when we have people who already have something that works to slow the disease down?
We can teach those scientists. We can give that scientist something that works, and they will go. We will fund them to the moon. Those wonderful young scientists. We'll give them something tangible to work with. If we get,
it's crazy.
We're giving them nothing right now. We have everything for them. So, they will be funded to the moon if we get these things out there. I mean, if we get a pathway, an opening. People get tired of hearing it. Well,
I know they do, and that's why we keep saying this. We're not going to be able to keep saying this forever, obviously, because at some point people are going to become so insulated to our point and our facts, what we're showing people, just like they are with ALS, and that's what I fear. But look at this. I mean, here's a post. When was this again? 14. We are not going to sit on this money for 15 or 20 years. Okay, well, great. Write a check.
And she has left, so now so
call Chaim right now and say, listen, also call Chaim right now and say, if we gave you 20 million or 10 million, how could we get NurOwn approved, even if it's just for the vets? What about this? What about this, Annie? What if the VA starts to give NurOwn to the veterans? It's not going to be 300 grand, people. It's not going to cost that much when you do it in mass. Okay, it's going to cost that much because you're only doing 200 of them. You know what I mean? Let's do these things. Let's give it to the VA. Open it up. Let the vets have it. And spend the money where it needs to be spent. Because if the vets got the drug, got to try NurOwn in a large scale trial, what better way could there be to run a trial than on a bunch of our most sacred human beings that have served our country, and let them run this trial? How about, what if that said phase 3 20 or 2000, and it said 1,800 veterans sitting in VA homes across the country? I mean, and I
totally agree.
NurOwn can only do so much here, Annie. I mean, right? I mean,
you can only, like I said, they're not they're not big pharma, and that and they don't have that power. And if they did, they would have. They've done. Help them. I mean, help them. Help
look,
us.
They're asking. They're begging. Look at this. The letter, we've all seen this before, where NurOwn says, "Please, please, please, give us the money." We have something that we think works. Look at this. They basically say this. Come on, do this. And then we get something like this. Look at this, Annie. This is the Market Watch article that you're familiar with. And what did it say?
Oh, sure.
Brainstorm also discussed funding for the phase 3 trial, but also said it does not fund that stage of clinical trials. Now, I don't want to use the term lie, okay? Because that's a whole different level that we're not willing to go to. But we just showed these folks, Annie, a drug that they did fund all the way through phase 3 that failed. And that was $1.5 million, right? I mean, how much more do we have to show on this stuff?
It's crucial. It is we don't have, for so many of our dear comrades, they don't have, you know, and they don't have months. They don't have years. They have weeks. And this disease is heterogeneous. So
Right.
you don't know how long that these fine people have to
Not long.
we don't have time. We've got to do, Mike, every day that is, I don't mean to be, but every day that we wait, someone else wonderful loses their loved one, and they're the please
I mean,
don't
look,
let us see another group of pals die.
Annie,
We can't.
look at this. Look at this. Here's something. Here's something. We're, you know, from Barb, you know, Newhouse. We're looking more heavily at drug development and treatment therapies that could change ALS from a disease that takes life to a disease that is managed as a chronic illness. Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. We're not, listen, we're not saying that NurOwn, you go like this, you give somebody an injection and they're cured. Okay. Everybody out there that's been saying things like, you know, oh, it's not a cure, it's not going to work. Listen, stop. Look, listen to me right now. Okay. Listen to me. What do we get from this? Look at this again. Instead of actually investing some of this money in these things, in 2015, also issued another fundraiser to reinstate the Ice Bucket Challenge again. You know, they want, you know, it's like, listen,
what more do
right now,
what more
Annie,
does the world have to do?
We don't need more fundraisers right now. We don't need people posting fundraisers, and you know, at least not for things that are not going to help people. There's a woman in Oklahoma, Annie, right now, that is eating her food off of a tray, okay, like a bird, and she could not get anything. All right, and yet at the same time, we have this money sitting in an account. Look at this money, Annie. Look, all of these things that have been spent, all of these investment projects, busted. Every single one of them. Now they're going to say, well, you know, we needed this. We needed, you know, we needed the knowledge. Okay, everything we do results in knowledge. And you know what? Okay,
You
fine.
have a fatal disease. It is putting out the fire. It is starting to put out that fire.
It is starting
right
now.
Buy time for people. Buy time, and when you buy time, you open up the world to buy that time, and the world says, "Oh my gosh, we bought these people time. How can we buy them more?"
Well, we can do it very simply. We could ask the FDA to approve NurOwn right now, and to ask these people who have nitpicked NurOwn and said, "Oh, it's the rich man's drug. It's not good." You know what? Are you nuts? Look at this, Annie. We're spending $8 million a year in compensatory expense on $18 million of research. Okay? Listen, I'm not here to say that look, here's the bottom line. Fund NurOwn and get it approved right now. If you are truly concerned about doing what you say you do, which is solving this problem, and how many places on the website do we need to show them that say, you know, oh, we're really, you know, we want to fix this. Look, $1.5 million, Annie, for conferences. You know, do you know? I mean, I spent my life producing the largest rock and roll bands in the world, their shows, okay? And you know, I can, you know what? Do you know what teleconferencing is? To do what we're doing here today cost me $600. Okay, that's it, $600. And yet we're sending people all over to places for these conferences, Annie, and yet we have people who are eating like birds.
I can't.
Their
I know.
Food off of a tray, and I'm sorry. I know. I don't mean to make you cry.
No, you have to say it, because no, Mike. No, you didn't make me cry in the sense. You made me cry in the sense that these people could have some real hope, and that is priceless.
$200,000 per grant. What the heck can you do for $200,000, Annie? What can you do for 200 grand? Why is a company
It
like
costs
NurOwn?
more than that to keep a person on a vent a year.
And exactly, your argument
These
is
people can't.
spot on. It's spot on. What could you do at the VA when we have thousands and thousands of people, of guys sitting there who took freaking bullets, man, in Afghanistan and Iraq for their country, and the FDA says, well, it might be dangerous, guys. We better run some more double-blind placebo trials. Okay? And some of these people are actually agreeing with them. You know who you are. And Annie, to your credit, you have said to me, Mike, we need to be careful. Please just, you are the ultimate epitome of class. If I would have been here 5 years ago, I would have gone off the rails with these people, and you have not done that. And I commend you for that. I do. But I hope you finally agree with me now that we've got to start naming names. Okay? Now listen to me. Annie and I will never present you anything here that we cannot back up with facts. You see, everything we show you, we didn't make this stuff up. Okay? Every day Annie calls me and says, have you seen this? And I say, no. Have you seen this? Are you aware that people are getting these huge donations? And I say, no, it can't be possible. It can't be possible. I mean, I ran a successful business like Warren Osborne did, except obviously he was much more successful than I was. But business owners do not look at things like this, okay? When we try to solve problems, we do not make decisions based on these kinds of unbelievable calculations, Annie. I don't know what else to say. $200,000 a grant. I couldn't even, I mean, you're talking about somebody who's trying to develop a drug here, and you're giving them 200 grand, and then at the same time you're giving somebody else $5 million or $1.5 million, and then they become a sponsor, right, or they are a sponsor, right, on the website. All right, listen. Right. The way you fix things, okay, is that you identify the best hopes that you can, okay, and then you go for it, right? I mean,
just do that.
You don't continue to be, the popular kid, and we're all out of high school, okay? Well, let's not worry about giving these young scientists money, okay? We have some great scientists right now.
They will, and these young scientists will be able to learn from these older scientists that already can do it.
Well, we haven't even
there's their teacher.
Right, and we haven't even gotten into yet what's going on in Australia right now, Annie, and that's going to be a subject of a future show. When people learn that Neil Danifer has 7 potential therapies in the pipeline, and that he spent less on these 7 therapies than 1 year of ALSA's entire payroll. 7 of them, 7 therapies, and 3 are in trials. I mean, how many of you even know that out there? I mean, you want to talk about people who are motivated. Neil is motivated. And why is that, Annie? Why is Neil so motivated?
When you have skin in the game, you become motivated. When it affects you, it's personal. And that's what we have to remember. This disease is personal. And the bottom line is, yes, we have to treat it like that.
Yes, it is.
We have to treat it like it's personal, like Neil is. He's going for it. We've kept everybody a long time, and
listen to me. Everybody who's against NurOwn right now. Mark is the nicest man that you will ever meet. Yes. He's not lying to you, and he's also being very modest. Okay, he's being intentionally careful of what he says. And you want to know why he's being careful of what he says, Annie? It's because Mark Bedwell, even in our own community, has taken flack for what he's done. You and I are not going to ever mention names or put people in positions like this, but I want you to see this is what Mark Bedwell is dealing with. Okay? Telling people that he's getting false hope and that he's giving people, that he's lying. Mark Bedwell flew out of his own pocket 14 times to go to Boston and paid for that. And yet, and some of these people, I'm not even going to show you the ones on Twitter, okay, talking about NurOwn, because, look, there seems to be a core group of people who are just against anything that will stop this disease, okay? NurOwn needs to be finished, and it needs to be finished right now. You all know what I'm trying to do for CUATSM, and that's been a brick wall, okay? We're up against a brick wall on that. I don't know what to tell you, okay? We have researchers who literally have told me in letters, and I've shown them to you, right, Annie? We've shown them here, that they say a bunch of you people are going to die. Guess what? Sorry, but that's the way it is. They're literally telling us that a bunch of you guys are going to die before you can get to this drug. Okay? President Trump, we're asking you, as much as you have managed to do over the last 2.5 years, despite all this nonsense and all this, we're not going to go political here, but you can fix this. You can fix this. You could order the FDA now, the new incoming FDA chief. You could say, listen, dude, whatever these people need, give it to them. Annie, what phrase did you hear from the FDA 5 or 6 times the day you went to the FDA? What were they telling a bunch of people who are getting ready to die?
It's above our pay grade. It's above our pay grade.
It's above our pay grade. It's above our pay grade.
It's not.
I mean, look at this, people. NurOwn is, in many people, at a 100% improvement. Okay? It's not going to be this way for everybody. Okay? It's not going to be this way for everybody. We know that. We understand that. We want people to stop misinterpreting our words. Okay? A cure is different things to different people. Okay? We do not care, and I know you all don't. Most of you out there are laying in bed. You cannot get up. You can't walk. You're losing hope. We do. Annie and I do not care who owns the cure or a therapy to ALS. It's not about ownership.
Let's do it.
It's about doing
Let's
it.
just do it.
It's about coming together. Okay? If you
Bipartisan.
have an bipartisan effort, if you have an extra $20 million, there's no reason to do anything except put it in the things that can get done the quickest, the fastest, and all of this. We don't need, even some of these other things that are still, that look promising, okay, that are being developed, are still going to have to go through this FDA process, people. Okay? So all you out there are saying, well, we have hope in this other product. Okay, great. But you're not going to see it.
Let's add that with the cocktail.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, and you're not going to see it.
Let's make that a cocktail. Let's put that in the cocktail. Let's move that with, let's all make that a part. Like, AIDS has 157 drugs that people use. Let's make ALS have 157 drugs that we use that work with a heterogeneous disease that comes in all different forms. So, let's get all of those drugs, and everyone in this little bit of a funding community, in the fact that it's such a little piece, we could fund all of those drugs. The world would fund all of those, and I think that, it sounds so cliche, but isn't the world looking for something to unite us? And what better thing could unite the world than the luckiest man, Lou Gehrig, his disease being cured? That sounds silly, but that's probably the most, that's one of the top 2 or 3 most known speeches ever in history. And if there isn't a more likable guy in the world, have you ever met an individual that doesn't consider Lou Gehrig about he's been actually a detriment to us, because he's so darn wonderful that a lot of people that get the disease are that wonderful, and so they're quiet and amazing like him. But I gotta think that if the Iron Horse was alive now, instead of the luckiest man, he'd say, we gotta fight in this ball game, and let's hit a home run. Let's hit a home run.
And tell us a little bit about his fraternity. You're an expert. You know what happened there. What? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, probably the one of the most amazing partnerships was Phi Theta, which was our Iron Horses fraternity, which is made up of the most amazing young men all over the country, and they had a wonderful the ALS Association had a wonderful partner in them, and unfortunately, but fortunately for us, they stopped their partnership with ALSA and went with their they went with Live Like Lou organization, which is an organization that lives like Lou. And these young men and this wonderful fraternity are doing more things since they started this connection with Live Like Lou than I think that I've watched in countless years. They stopped their affiliation with the National ALS Association, and in the letter, the reason was that they felt lack of leadership and lack of a true mission to get this done, and they want this disease cured, and they are in our fight like Lou was.
You're totally
like
right.
Lou.
And what I want to talk about now, and then I want to move into a personal aspect. I want to introduce this community really more to myself. I came on the scene a little faster than I probably meant to. I was like you, and I was a very private person, and I'm only here because because I have to be. But frankly, I'm beginning to know many of you, and I'm sorry I can't get back to all of your emails as quickly as I'd like to, but I didn't want to be here. 13 months ago, my life was perfect. I mean, only God Almighty Himself is truly perfect. But I had a great life. Annie, you've suffered so much from this disease, and 13 months ago, ALS was the last thing on my mind. I knew what it was. I was running a business. I was enjoying life. I had my absolutely ideal career. I did, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute, just so you know who I am a little bit more. But Annie, many people know you, and I think we ought to do a thing on you one night too. To let people know who you are. But let's talk about strategy for a second, okay? As a business owner, and I'm going to show you in a minute and I don't know if many of you guys remember that commercial that used to run about roadies ruling the world, or if roadies ruled the world, how everything gets done so quickly,
Absolutely. You proved that tonight, Mike.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but when we had our problems,
you
maybe
proved
so,
it.
We did have some pretty big problems, but my point is this: is that I'm used to a world where, uh, Kenny Rogers is ready to go on stage. You don't say, "I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers, your stage is not ready." You get it ready. You get it done. Warren Osborne comes from a world where if you don't produce results, you're out of business. You've lost your money. Okay. He's a venture capitalist, and he's a very private man as well. And he demands results. Okay. Many of you in your personal lives, what happens if you don't show up to work? Poor Kathy Collier working at Walmart as a greeter now. What if she doesn't show up at work? She gets fired. Okay. I want to introduce you all, many of you, to ALSA's research strategizer. Okay. This is the man, and the reason this is important, Annie, is it's not personal. It's because he controls the money that we have that's been raised in our name, in your name, in Richard Collier's name, all of these people's names. I want people to understand how these decisions are being made. Okay. And I don't, again, please do not send hate mail. Do not, we're not here to do this type of thing. But, hey, also it's a public organization, man. Okay, they have to answer for these things. I'd like for you all to just to briefly introduce you to a man named Bill Thowett. Bill Thowett is the board research chair, and I'll show you in a letter in a minute where he responds to somebody's question about the ice bucket money. Okay, this man is the man that's responsible, basically, of course, with other people too, along with Colin Ballas, our new CEO, about where the money and where these key decisions are being made. It used to be Lucy Brugen. I'm sorry, you probably knew how to say her name better than I did. She lived in Alaska, and right now, Bill Thoet is the man that is deciding on the core strategy for ALSA's research, okay? He's deciding, hey, where does the money go, okay? He's a computer science guy. He went, to Stevens University, I believe, there in New Jersey. That's up near your part of the woods, Annie. But, listen, this is the gentleman who's trying to decide where the money should go, okay? And, I think he's a fun kind of guy. I don't know. He owns a piano bar, and, he used to
Come
work
on,
for
Bill, give us the money.
Booz Allen Hamilton, right? And we know Booz Allen Hamilton, who also worked for Booz Allen Hamilton. maybe won't mention that name. There was a scandal about that though. But Bill, my bottom line is this: Mr. Thoet is probably a genius man. He's probably extremely intelligent. He's obviously probably had a class, I don't know, a top secret clearance. He worked for Booz Allen Hamilton. Okay, he's a computer guy. Okay, he's a computer guy. I don't see any formal medical training on Mr. Thoet's resume, and he's the research director for ALSA. Okay, I mean, I want to know who's making these decisions. We did have an MD, right? Lucy Brugen was an MD, I believe. Is that correct, or was she a PhD? I think she was an MD.
I think a PhD. Yeah.
PhD?
I don't know. I can't say. I thought it was
I think maybe you're right. I think maybe you're right. Okay. So going back to strategy. Let's take just a quick look at strategy here. Okay. And somebody asked a question to Mr. Thoet, and you can see how he introduces himself online. I'm not making this stuff up. It's right here in writing. And he's happy to address the question about the ice bucket donation, okay, and about the strategy. And there's not a word in here, Annie, about the one single thing that you and I have almost beat our heads into the wall about now, NurOwn, or Dr. Appel. And I can't see the letter, and I'll have to review this again because it's so small. But this we'll post this on the website after we get done with the broadcast, okay? Because I want you all to know what the strategy is for ALSA to solve ALS, okay? And the only reason I care, the only reason Annie cares, is because they got the money. They have the money, okay? They're the ones that control the research budget, okay?
And I think Mr. Thoet will do that. I mean, I think if he knows, I think he's, Lucy was more of she's more of the PhD. She was more the medical director. So I believe, but I think Mr. Thoet, if he knows that he can help us, I think he will. I think that's kind of what you're saying, is that if he knows that NurOwn, that it could help us, I think that he would send the research dollars there. I have to think that.
You know what I'd like to see is, I agree with you. I think he would. And I would like to see, and maybe some other people who have donated to ALSA would like to see a letter from Mr. Thoet, other than what we just see here, that explains specifically what the strategy is to get some therapies into the bodies of PALs as quickly as possible. This Stopping ALS is about getting drugs into bodies, okay?
Get us into our body, yes.
It's not about going to Arizona for a convention, okay? It's about putting drugs into our bodies. My question to Pauline Ballas, to William Thoet, to Lance, what's his name? Sorry, Annie.
Lance Slaughter. I think he's the head of the chapters. So all the chapters.
Right. What is the chapter strategy? What are they doing? Because one of the chapters actually funded CUATSM, $300,000, right? We mentioned that.
Right.
So here's the question: what is the strategy? Also, could you please, Mrs. Ballas, could you please clarify what you intend to do over the next 90 days? Now that we're starting to see these things starting to happen, would you please communicate with NurOwn? Would you please communicate with the president? Okay? Would you please do something instead of giving scientists who are just coming out of school money. Okay, would you please act like you're
Which
running
is
a
just a
business?
small portion of it, Annie. Let's do it. Like that science, when they give the scientists is so small. Let's give treatments funding, and let's ask
That's
Mr. Thowett. I have to think that, you know, he is doing, he cares so much about us, and I don't think he's had the opportunity. I think he's more of the board of trustees. So I don't know that he you know, he's the actual medical
Well,
per se.
he's
So
introducing himself as the research director there, Annie. I mean, that's the
oh,
thing.
okay,
I mean,
okay.
if you saw that letter,
Well,
and we will post that, by the way. So he is
yeah.
clearly,
Well,
you know, and he's part
yeah.
of the
Okay.
Pittsburgh Brain Institute. You're kind of right up
Right.
there in
So
your neck of the
he can,
woods.
yeah, he can get this done. I mean, we
He
can.
could.
Let's do this. Let's do this.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, let's
Help us
do
out,
this.
William. Help
I
Mr.
think
Thowett. Help us out. You know,
we are
give us.
asking you. He's help the service people, because, you know, that's, yeah, exactly.
What can we do to help you? You know, instead of you asking us for more and more money through fundraisers and through chapter, you know, fundraisers and walks. You know, now I tell you what, the American public has been incredibly generous for ALSA. Now it's your turn.
Yeah.
You tell us.
Right.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do so that somebody like Michaela, one of the most devastating, Annie, that hurt bad when I saw those pictures. That, you know, I can
a beautiful girl in the prime of her life, yeah, that didn't even get a life, that didn't get a chance at a future.
And
if you can't do it for someone like that, you know, if you can't
hurry
do
up,
this, you
right?
know, hurry up. Yeah, we're getting long-winded, and I don't know people, but please hurry up.
That's
Everybody wants a tangible thing to do. So I think, you know, can we give them a tangible thing as all pals together? Because we are one big family, all cows together. I think you know, I'm asking.
You're right.
For you all to put all of our personal, the things that we don't agree upon. Yeah. I think we all agree as a nation, as a world. I know it sounds silly, but as a mom, you know, as a mom who has a chance to see something that could study my family, that's 7. Can you imagine having something that is that rare, that there's say there's like 7 of you in the world, there's 7 families, like to have a chance to study us, to study these people that, like,
and your son,
that's all I can say.
Your son is fasciculating right now.
Right now, you know,
24 years old.
I look over at him and you know, I remember someone saying, "Stop making your jaw move like that." You know, his buddies, you know, and he said, "What do you mean?" And he didn't feel it. You know, this kid has been through hell. He has been through absolute hell on Earth. On Earth, Mike. He's been through hell. And he's watched his family fall apart in so many ways, Mike. This disease has crippled us emotionally. If that doesn't do it, Mike, if that doesn't do it,
and somebody's talking about, you know, a phase 3 placebo trial. Just people, listen to me. We might disagree on things like abortion and things like whatever, you know.
Anything.
It doesn't matter.
We don't disagree on this.
It doesn't matter. Nobody should disagree on ALS. Nobody should disagree, okay, that we should stop acting, you know, using human beings as freaking lab rats, okay?
Or money in the bank.
Right, exactly. We don't have time to do a phase 3 placebo trial on every single drug that's coming down the pipeline. Mr. President, if you're watching this right now, step up to the plate. You have proven yourself to be a leader. You've taken a lot of heat. You can be the man that fixes this. One executive order that says ALS from now on will be treated like the disease that it truly is. It's not ALS is not a disease. Okay, it's a punishment from hell. Okay.
It is. The people often say to me, you know, What if somebody went to jail in their mind? What if they went to prison? And I often say, people that deal with ALS, put them in prison because they would say, hey, this is nothing. How do you justify that? How do you justify something that is worse than prison? That is worse that you would do for a convicted killer? That it's somebody that's killed somebody. This disease is worse than any hell that anybody could ever imagine. It is hell on earth, and I know that we can put aside every political belief, every Mrs. Pelosi. I beg you, Mr. Schumer, I beg you. I can go on and on. Everybody, I beg you, Mr. Bezos of Amazon. I beg you, Mark Zuckerberg. I beg all of you that are watching. Kim Kardashian, you helped use your celebrity to help a lady out of prison, and you can
That's right.
you got her out. Get all these people out of prison. Give them a chance. Tell their story. I don't even know.
I can assure you that these people at NurOwn, at Brainstorm, I speak with some of them regularly, and it kills them to see what has happened. These people are deeply moved by what they have,
right?
And the fact that they cannot get it out there. I'm telling you, these people are good people. They want to save your life. Look in the camera right now. Everybody with ALS, okay? NurOwn wants to save your life, okay? I'm not telling you that you're going to be an 18-year-old again, okay? What I'm saying is that if we could get past all of this nonsense, that you can have a chance to live a chance. And it's a damn good chance, okay? You just saw a man who has literally, he's a new man compared to what he was, when you're told go home and die, okay? I cannot imagine what it would feel like to me or to Coach Trimble. You saw him here last week. That man has done more for young men in this country. He's a father figure. He's a godly man. He is a true American hero. And for Brainstorm to know that they could possibly save his life, but they can't do it. It's a disgrace. We're better than this. We're better than this as a country. We can fix this, and we can all come together, forget all this nonsense that it doesn't work.
Put it all aside, everybody. Every group tonight. Every group. I am asking every ALS group, every organization, every person to let's go, guys. It's game time.
That's right. It's game time.
As Lou Gehrig would say, he hit, he was a fighter. He didn't know even that they kept a lot of him from him with his disease, his wife and because he's such an honorable man. And if he would have known that, he could have stood up and said, I'm the luckiest and I'm going to have this cure named after me. And I know he would have, I know he would have taken that. Yeah. I know he would have still stood up there and said, I'm the luckiest man. And did anybody ever realize that maybe the reason he said he was the luckiest man is he was going to be the reason we're going to cure this darn thing?
Maybe so. Maybe he's the next Jonas Salk. I think a lot of people are worried. I think a lot of people, maybe wanting to take that title of being Jonas Salk, and there's a lot of people who
let's give it to Lou Gehrig.
Well, why don't that'd be great. Or why not? Why don't we give it to all of us, everybody in the community?
Exactly. Wait, we're all Lou Gehrig. That's what I say.
We can all be that person. No one person.
Let's all be the luckiest person in the world. Let's all be the luckiest man and woman in the world. Let's do that. Let's go, groups. Everybody. If you hear this tonight, it is your personal rally cry. Let's go.
Let's just forget about all
Let's
the BS.
go.
Let's do it. Let's get
all of it.
Let's get NurOwn approved first. Let's look at CUATSM. Let's help Dr.
And let's
Appel.
go.
And
Let's go.
Let's cut the nonsense.
Let's go. Stand with us. Let's go.
I want to leave you all with one quick thing. You know, this disease took a lot from me. I had a perfect my dream job. This is what I looked at every morning when I came to work. I worked for some of the largest rock and roll acts in the world. There's Brett. There's your buddy Brett, right, Annie? Brett Michaels.
Amazing man.
This was an average night for me. All right. This is my beautiful wife, Shannon.
Wow,
you know,
stunning.
This was one of my last days at work. I cannot tell you what curing or treating ALS would mean to me personally. It means
what would it mean to that beautiful woman next to you?
Thank you. What would it mean for me to go back to work for Leonard Skinner? What would it mean for me to once again go back to designing the most beautiful fundraisers that I could do? This is what I did, y'all. This was my passion, was doing production and making people enjoy having a night out. This is what ALS took from me. Okay, all of this, and
it's personal.
It's personal. Now it's personal. That's exactly right. This was Bad Company. You know, this is Paul Rogers, one of the greatest rock and roll artists on the planet. And
I knew right away who it was too.
You would. And there's, Paul Rogers was such a nice man. All of these guys, they're regular, ordinary people, But this is what ALS did to me, okay? Any car racing fans, Chili Bowl was my show. I did all of these things. All of this. This is what I did. And now we have the chance, Annie. Let's just to say this and let's get out of here. It's been a long, we went way too long. But yeah, I want people to know that, I dream of one day, being able to maybe, go back to enjoying what I used to do, building cars. I know you have things that you love to do. This was my life, and ALS stole it from me. This was the day I walked out the door with my assistant, absolutely wonderful human being named Abby, and this was it. This was the last day for me until this damn disease took everything from me. Now, we're fortunate. I have a wonderful wife. We have, thank God that Jesus blessed us with some resources to be able to fight this, to be able to help you, to do this. This is what I was born to do. When I met Annie, it became clear that, once these things started to come out, these new therapies, NurOwn, I believe, was sent from God on a mission to solve this disease. And yet we're still dealing with this stuff because of infighting and bickering, and because of people not wanting to get this done, and because of the FDA and because of the government. Annie, I just want to say one thing. We're going to win this battle. I'm not dying. I'm not going away.
You're going to be the luckiest man in the world. That's what it is. That's it.
Neither is your son. Nope. Okay? Because we are all going to get this done. I don't want to die. Okay? It's not in my plan. Now, I may not be the person that I was, but I want every one of you to know that Annie and I we're not going away. We're going to fight for you every step of the way until this damn disease has been slowed down, or till we have something on the market that works. Okay? And we will never ask you for a dime. Never. We're not here to ask you for money.
You have given enough.
You've given enough already. I mean, it's giving your body, your legs, your arms, the only thing you have left, your eyes. Is that not enough already? And yet you're getting, still get emails asking for more. We don't need more. We need help is what we need. Okay? That's what we need. And that's what's going to happen, because I am not ready to freaking die. And I know you aren't, and I know your son's not. Okay? And to all of you people, we're going to sign off now. And I just want each of you to know that thank you for welcoming me into this community. And, you know, I'm sorry that somebody has to be the bad guy. Okay? And I told Annie, I said, it's going to get uncomfortable at times because we're going to name names. Okay? We're never going to make it personal, ever.
The disease is personal, but not
Yeah.
to the people that, you know,
Right.
that are trying their best. I mean,
ALS
they just have to try harder.
It's personal enough. This right here is going to change the world, we hope. We want to thank each of you tonight. I'm sorry it ran so long. And Annie, do you want to say anything before we go? You were fantastic tonight, and I've never seen you get that emotional before. And I know this means a lot to you, and many of you, I hope, feel the same way. But I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I do. And
and I try to. I had a lot of people say to me, you know, you're too emotional. You're not and I got accused of crying a lot. You know, it's like, oh, you cry a lot and this and that. And I actually tried to stop that. And then someone said to me, Annie, it was okay for you to cry because you're a mom and you've watched countless moms, like Frank Magella's mom and his beautiful wife, and you know, Kate Molina, Matt's wife, and you've watched, you know, countless people, and it's okay to cry for them because the world doesn't know, and they don't know if we smile through it. They don't.
Right.
We've done that, you know. If you see our logo, it's shh, and that was for a reason, because we've been told to live in the shadows and just to kind of go home and be quiet. And Annie, you're doing good, so you live your life and don't stir up anything because you're lucky. And I used to say, you know, Annie, go ahead about your life and be quiet, because keep your nose down because you're doing well. Don't. But you know what? That's not fair. I decided that my personal comfort wasn't worth being quiet, because I knew that I had something that nobody else had a chance to. I had time. And with time to me came responsibility. And it wasn't about my comfort anymore. But you know what? I've put my dear family, their comfort level to an uncomfortable level now. You know, because they didn't ask for me to fight this. They also said, put your nose down and just be quiet. You know, because they deserve a life too. If you understand what I mean. They deserve.
They do.
And I said, you guys, I can't do this. I can't do this to you, because I know that with my voice comes therapies and comes action and comes a chance. So for anybody that has ever felt the most, I don't think you could feel as conflicted a person in your mind that the confliction I have went through in my lifetime. Because when you give somebody a disease and you tell them it is in your family, but we don't know how it's going to, we don't know if the person's going to get frontal lobe dementia, we don't know if they're going to get we don't know if they're going to die in 6 months, we don't know if they're going to die in 13 years, we don't know if they're going, and you give them that information, it's like a ticking time bomb. So do we let that person go on in their life and live like they don't know, or do we fight it? And I have been the most conflicted probably person in the whole universe. And that sounds crazy, but I don't think you could be as conflicted as I have been in this fight. And so to put my family, give them one more chance of being hurt by people, but in the same sense, it's worth it to me, because
one more chance.
One more chance. And so I'm sorry for being long-winded, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But one more chance for Mike's family.
One more chance for
one
me
more chance for his beautiful wife.
This guitar, this is Willie Nelson's guitar trigger. And every year Willie Nelson would come to the Hard Rock, and I stood inches from this guitar. I could have run out the door with it. Now I wouldn't have gotten very far. But this is what it took from me. And I'm going to see I'm going to see that damn guitar again. I promise you I will. I'm going to leave you all with this one more time. We're going to watch the FDA. I want you to watch closely the reaction on the faces of these people, and yet how little urgency they have. We are dying, and this is how
Let's
they
go
act.
FDA.
We'll see you all later. Thank you so much. I apologize for running long, but
We love you all.
we will leave you with this now, and thank you, Mark, for doing the show tonight, and we will see you again soon.
Good night.
But there are patients that are getting better on this trial. And I'm going to show you some.
Wow.
Direction. It worked. It was hard for me to walk, hard for me to talk. I'm very emotional about it. It works. I'll run around the building with you.